Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make a realistic Roblox horror game. As you can see here, this is an example of what we're going to be learning today. I created this game under the principles that I'm going to teach you today, so let's go ahead and play it. It's got a flashlight as well. It says, I'm bored. I'm going to go on my computer. Uh-oh, someone's here. Who is that? Got some custom character sounds, realistic models as well. And we got a house here. Well, there's nowhere else to go. I guess I'll go check out this door. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. What's in here? Damn, that was scary. Now, this game that I made only took me around a day to complete. And today, I'm going to teach you step by step how to make a game like this. So now let's load up a base plate and start our game. And now we are in the game. So the first section we want to focus on in creating a horror game is building your game. And we're going to start off by building our map. And so now you're going to create a map for your horror game. So now I'm just going to make a small room for my horror game. Once you've gotten the floor, you can work on the walls and the ceiling. Make sure it's all anchored. And then in your workspace, you're going to create a folder and call this folder map. I personally like folders in the workspace because it just organizes everything, makes it all smooth, and helps me develop it faster. Now, because these are walls, I'm going to put them in the walls folder and then put my ceiling and floor inside of the map folder and name it accordingly. Now that you've got your map, you're obviously going to want to color it. So I'm going to select the walls here and change the color and change the ceiling color and floor as well. And what's a realistic horror game without realistic textures? So what you can do is go to the toolbox, go to models, and search up textures. Then you'll find packs of realistic textures and horror game texture packs. Select the textures you'd like and drag them out. You can also use Roblox Studio's built-in materials. So for this wall, I'm just going to keep it as plastic. And now I want to use this carpet texture, so I'm going to go to the part, select all the textures, click copy, then go to my floor and click paste into. Now I have a carpet flooring, and you can repeat this for any other objects you want to texture. I'm just gonna texture my ceiling as asphalt. Another part of creating your map is having realistic models inside of your game. Now you can do this in two ways, in Blender or in Roblox Studio. Inside of Blender, you can model different objects and export it into Roblox Studio. I personally like Blender because it allows you to be much more realistic and precise with your measurements, and I just like using it to model stuff. Or alternatively, you can just model stuff inside of Roblox Studio. Now, if you want to have realistic models inside of your game, that means having realistic measurements. So what I like to do is search up dummy, place it inside of my game, and this will give you an accurate scale of your player to your map. This way you won't make things too big or too small. So now actually modeling stuff inside of your game, it means going to model and changing the studs to 0.1 or even lower. This allows you to be much more precise with your measurements and makes it look more realistic. You could also use meshes inside of your game to help you model better. So here is a mesh pack. You can drag it out, and similar to your texture pack, you can use these different meshes to model stuff inside of your game. So here I've got my own realistic models, and once you've made some, you can drag them into your map. And once you've created your map, model some realistic models and put them inside of your game, it's time to move on to realistic lighting. So you've got your map, but it's looking pretty ugly because the lighting is terrible. And what is a realistic Roblox game with terrible lighting? So we're gonna fix this. And because it's a Roblox horror game, we're gonna go to lighting, scroll down, and change the time of day to 0. Now it's dark outside. Then we're gonna scroll up and change the technology to future. Change the shadow softness to 0.1 and change the brightness if you want to. Then we can change the ambiance as well and the outdoor ambiance. Another important part of lighting is color correction. So we can add a color correction effect inside of the lighting. Go to the color correction and change the brightness if you want to. Oh, that's a little too bright, but you get what I mean. So what I like to do is change the contrast of the game and increase the brightness a little bit. And now you can see the difference. And if you want to, you can decrease the saturation as well if you want the lighting to be a little less colorful. But we also want to have actual lights inside of the game. So for example, if I have a light source and I have a spotlight inside of it, we can change the spotlight to face the bottom And now it looks like this. Pretty ugly, right? So an important part of having lights inside of a realistic Roblox game is to turn on shadows. See how much better that looks? Compared to without shadows, it's a huge difference. Make sure to have shadows on all of your lights inside of your game. For the light as well, you can adjust the angle, which I like to do, decrease the brightness, and now you have some good shadows. And that is how to have realistic lighting inside of your game. And now it's time to add sound effects to your realistic Roblox game. So we're gonna go up to Workspace, add a folder, and name this folder SFX for sound effects. Now, for example, my game is gonna have a creepy ending, so I'm gonna search up creepy giggle. So once you found your sound effect, you're gonna go to your sound, scroll down, paste it into sound ID, and adjust the volume if you like. And then I'm just gonna rename this to giggle. And now you're gonna do this for all aspects of your game. So for example, I'm gonna add a knocking sound effect because in my game, you're gonna be in your room, you hear knocking on the door, open it, and then you die. So once you've got your sound effect, copy asset ID, go to SFX, add a sounds, and paste it in sound ID. And now just repeat this for all the sounds you want inside of your game. And now an important part of a realistic horror game is having some good ambiance. So you want to have some good ambiance in the background to give off that spooky aesthetic to your game. Once you found a good ambiance, you can copy the asset ID, go to SFX, add a sound, name it ambiance, and paste in your sound ID. And because it's an ambiance, it's going to be playing throughout the whole game. So you're going to want to click looped and playing. This will make sure that it is always playing, and adjust the volume as well to make sure it's not too loud. And that is how to add realistic sound effects into your game. And so for section 1, we went over creating your game. So now you should have your map organized in a folder in your workspace, realistic models that you've made, good realistic lighting, and realistic sound effects in a global folder. And now it's time for section 2. Scripting your game. So the first thing we want to do in a realistic horror game is to script interactable objects. Now you don't have to do this, but it does add to the realism of your game. This could mean scripting drawers to open and close, or different objects to move. Now I coded this realistic door to open and close, and I coded this realistic window to open and close as well. As you can see, if I go up to the window and press E, the window opens and closes. The way I coded this window was using tween service and proximity prompt. Adding interactable objects into your game definitely does add to the realism, and it's something that you want to add inside of your realistic horror game. And now it's time to script a flashlight, because most likely you're going to be in a dark environment in your horror game and you want to have a flashlight. So to create a flashlight, what we want to do is insert a part, change the size to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and turn can collide off. Then turn off can query and can touch. Make sure it is anchored. Now rename this to flashlight, and inside of it add a spotlight. And here you can adjust what the flashlight looks like. Now it's very important to enable shadows. Just like I explained with the lighting, shadows makes it look much more realistic. Now I personally like having the angle at 50 and the range at 30. Then you can adjust the color as well. And once you finish your flashlight, you're just gonna put it in replicated storage. Then inside of starter character scripts, you're gonna add a local script and name the script flashlight. And then you're gonna use this script, which I'll put inside of the description. And then inside of your SFX folder, you're gonna add a sound, name the sound flashlight. Then you're gonna find a flashlight sound effect and paste it into sound ID. Then you're gonna go to starter player, change the camera max zoom distance to 0.5, and change the camera mode to lock first person. And now if we play the game, we can press F and our flashlight pops up. And as you can see, this flashlight has shadows as well, which makes it look even more realistic. And now it's important to change your player settings. So you're gonna go to starter player, scroll down, and because my game doesn't really need you to jump, I'm just gonna change the character jump height to 0, which disables the character from jumping. Then I'm gonna change the character walk speed to something very slow, like 4. And now I want to disable climbing and add a mouse icon. So I'm gonna go to starter GUI, add a local script, and name this local script client module. And I'm gonna use this script to change the mouse icon and disable climbing. You can use the same mouse icon that I use, it's just a dot and it looks pretty good. And now when I play the game, my mouse icon is just a dot and my character is pretty slow. The game is already looking pretty realistic. And now we want to change the player's walking sound effects. This is a script I use to change the character's sound effects, and you can watch this video that I made on how to change it. And now that we've coded all of this into the game, it's time to actually start creating the game module. The game module is what starts the game. So what we're gonna do is go to server script service, add a script, and name this script game module. Then in replicated storage, we're gonna add a folder and name this folder game events. What this folder does is plays out the different events that take place inside of your horror game. So for example, I'm gonna have an event for when you go on your computer and you hear the knocking on your door. So I'm gonna add a computer event. Then you wanna make sure you have an event that starts your game. So I'm gonna add an event and name it start game. Then I'm also gonna have another event for the ending of the game. And of course, you can add different events for different things that happen inside of your game. But because mine is a pretty simple and small game, I'm just gonna have one main event. So once we've gotten our events, we can go back to the game module and type local rs equals game.replicated storage, local events equals rs.game events. And what we're gonna do is type game.players.playerAdded connect function. Now we typically want to add a wait just to make sure that the player loads in before the game starts. Then we're going to type events.startGame fire all clients. And now this is the game module that fires the beginning of the game. And now the actual module that runs the game. We're going to go to starter GUI and add a local script. We're going to name this local script dialog module. This is going to run the dialogue and what actually happens inside of the game. So to create dialogue, we're going to go to starter GUI, add a screen GUI and name this dialog UI. Then add a text label and name this text label dialogue. Change the anchor point to 0.5, 0.5. Change the background transparency to 1. Change the position to 0.5, 0, 0.5, 0, and change the size to 1, 0, 1, 0. Then you can adjust the size from the screen. Now that you've got your dialogue, you're going to scroll down and select text scaled, change the text color to white, and change your font. Then just delete the text. And now we're going to go back to your dialogue module and type local rs equals game.replicated storage, and then local events equals rs.game events. Then we're going to go down and type events.startGame.onClient event connect function. Then add a variable for your dialogue. So I'm going to type local dialogue equals script.parent.dialogue.ui.dialogue. Then for example, once the game starts, we're going to type dialogue.text equals whatever you want it to say. So because my game story is that it goes to the computer, I'm going to type I should go on my computer. And now we want to add a transition to our game. What a transition is just a black screen that fades in and out. So what we're going to do is add a frame, name it transition, change the anchor point to 0.5, 0.5. Change the background color to black, change the position to 0.5, 0, 0.5, 0, change the size to 1, 0, 1, 0, and change the Z index to 2. Then you're just going to go to view and check off UI visibility so that you can actually work on your game. Then go back to your dialog module and add a variable for your transition. Transition equals script.parent.dialog.GUI.transition. Then we're going to use tween service and tween info to tween our transition to make it fade in and out. So when the game starts, we're going to use this line of code to fade the transparency to 1 so that the game fades into place. Then I'm going to add a wait for 3 seconds and then the text will pop up. And now we're going to add another dialogue sequence for another event in the game. So I'm going to type events.computerEvent.onClientEvent connect function, go down, and now it's time to code what happens when I go to the computer. So now I'm going to use the same line of code but change the transparency to 0 so that the screen goes black. Add a wait for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to add a variable for my sound effects folder. So I'm going to type local sfx equals workspace.sfx. Then down here I'm going to type sfx.knocking play. Then I'm going to add a wait for 2 seconds and then type sfx.pound play. So what happens here is there's going to be knocking on the door, and after a few seconds there's going to be pounding on the door. Then I'm going to wait another 2 seconds and change the dialog.text to who is that. Then I'm going to transition the screen to 1 so that the game is visible. And I also want to make sure the character doesn't move during this period. So I'm going to add a local player equals game.players.localPlayer. Go down and add a line where I type player.character : wait for child apostrophes humanoid dot walk speed equals 0. Then once the scene is over, I'm going to change the walk speed back to 4. And now we're going to add an ending. Now I'm going to type events.ending.onClientEvent connect function, go down, I'm going to type what happens when I open the door and the ending begins. So for the transition, I'm going to make the background transparency 0, no tweening this time, change the dialogue to empty so that the text goes away, and type player : kick apostrophe you died. This is the message that is showed to them after they are kicked. Then I'm also going to make sure the player can't move as well. And I want the giggle to play at the end, so I'm going to type sfx.giggle:play. Then I'm going to add a brief waiting period here before the player is kicked, just so that the giggle sound effect plays out. And now we are done with the dialogue module. And so now for the actual events, we want the events to fire when things happen inside of the game. For example, my computer event happens when I go on my computer. So inside of my computer, I'm going to add a proximity prompt and add a script. Name this computer script, and inside of the script, I'm going to link replicated storage and the events. And then I'm going to type local proximity prompt, or prox prompt equals script.parent.proximity prompt. Then prox prompt.triggered connect function, go down, and then I'm going to type events.computer_event:fire all clients. Then I'm just going to destroy the proximity prompt so that I can't activate it again. And so now when I press E on the computer event will fire and the dialogue will start. And so now I'm going to code it so when I open the door, the end event fires. So here I coded the event to fire after the door opens, and now our events should all be in place. And for the dialogue UI, you also want to make sure that ignore GUI inset is checked on so that the full screen gets covered. And so now if we join the game, initially we have a black screen, but it transitions. Then we get dialogue on our screen. I should go to my computer. Now if I press E on my computer, it fades to black. Then I hear the knocking and the pounding. Then it transitions back to the game, and the dialogue now says, "Who is that?" And so now if I open the door, I die. Now of course I need to adjust that so that the timing is right. So for the dialogue UI on the ending event, I'm going to add a wait function for 2 seconds so that you can actually see what happens when the door is opened. And for the computer event, I'm going to add a longer wait distance in between the knock and the pound. I'm going to change this to 5 seconds, and I'm going to change this to 7 seconds. And so now if we play the game, we join, and initially there's a black screen, but then eventually it transitions into your game. I should go on my computer. Press E on the computer, we can't walk anymore, and then we start hearing sound effects. Who is that? So there's someone at the door, and now if we open the door, we see who's there, and then the sound effects play, and I'm kicked. And so now I'm actually going to adjust the map so that the story can play out correctly. And boom, now the map is finished, and it's looking pretty clean. And now you've completed your very own realistic Roblox horror game. So now let's play it and see how it looks. So we start off in a room in the middle of nowhere. I should go on my computer. I mean, just look at these models, man. They just look realistic. I mean, this side of the room looks kind of empty, but this looks pretty good. And if we open the window, we got some rain outside. And you could also open the door early and die, but you know, I'm not going to do that. Hopefully your game looks kind of similar to this and you've made your own spin on it. I'm excited to see what your guys' games look like. So now let's actually go on the computer. We hear knocking and pounding. Who is that? And of course we can use our flashlight as well. That also looks pretty good. Well, now let's go see who it is. If you were kicked from this experience, you died. And now the final step of your Roblox game is publishing it. So now you're going to go to File, Publish to Roblox As, and then create new game. Then name it whatever you like. I'm just going to name this Spooky Game. Change the genre if you want, and change the devices that you want it to be played on. And disable Team Create if no one's creating it with you. And add a description if you want. Then click Create. And now your game is successfully published to Roblox. And now if we go to the Creator Hub, we can manage your experience. Then we can go to Places, select your game, and here you can change the icon and thumbnail. Then change the maximum visitor count to 1 so that the game is single player. Then you can go back to your game, click Settings, and change the privacy to public to fully publish your game onto Roblox. And now click Save Changes. And boom! You officially created your very own realistic Roblox horror game. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. And I spent a lot of time working on this game so I could help you make your own game. Like this video, subscribe, and share it to some of your friends, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.